This is Karen with NewClevelandRadio.net, and it's time for Heart Mojo with Melinda Smith. And Melinda Smith has a very special guest for us, don't you, Melinda?
I do. Hi, Karen. How you doing?
I'm doing great.
Happy New Year. Lashana Tova.
Absolutely. Health and happiness to all.
Absolutely. Shall we have a better New Year for everybody, right?
Absolutely.
So thank you. I have a very special guest, Grace Roberts. Some of you who are in Cleveland will remember that Grace used to be on 107 The Wave, right? I believe.
107.3, that's right.
Yep, that's right. So we've been friends for a long time, probably 6 years at least.
Yeah.
And I'm pleased to have her as a guest. She has a book out, and we're going to talk a little bit about her motivation and the challenges that she faced and why she wrote the book and good things like that. So, Grace, welcome. Tell me a little bit about you before we get
Well, thank you so much, Karen, Melinda. Thank you for having me. I've been in broadcast media in radio for just shy of 20 years. And December of last year, they changed the format for the radio station that I was on, and so we all got the boot. That's the nature of the biz. It happens like that. But I love, how they say, how many people love what they do, right? Raise your hand.
Absolutely.
I can definitely say that. Love what I do. Love broadcast media, giving people a platform, to make a difference. I was also the community affairs director over at The Wave for 6.5 years too. And prior to The Wave, I did that at another radio station with Radio One. So love the community affairs piece, getting out in the community and just giving people the platform to share. So that's so important. Community is so important to me.
Well, that's how I met you, was
Yes.
doing community programs, the different groups that I belong to, the nonprofits, to
Yeah.
get the word out about that.
Absolutely. And just loving broadcast media, loving the people that I meet, like I said, we became friends from that, and just meeting so many great people and just helping to get the word out. I love it. I really, really do. Passion. Love it.
Well, I think it comes from
every day.
What'd you say, Karen?
I said that means she's been happy every day.
Yeah. Well, I think giving back and wanting to get the word out for all the good things that are out there comes from getting through your own situation and then wanting to make sure you're out there to help people, right? So
True.
You've had your own challenges to get through, and we know we talk about that on this particular show. So one of the things that I'm so graced to have from Grace is your book, which hopefully everybody can see. I don't know if you can see it, but tell us a little bit about your book, 2.6 to 1.0. Why you must shrink to grow. I love that. It rhymes.
Yeah, right. 2.6 to 1.0. Yeah, why you must shrink to grow. And the title came to me, the 2.6 to 1 came to me when I woke up. It's like, that's your title. And I was like, I knew it wasn't me. I said, okay, because I wouldn't even thought to say 2.6 to 1. And there's a story behind it, Melinda, if you've read that.
I did.
Yeah. So there's a story, but why you must shrink to grow. It talks about me and my journey and how literally and figuratively shrinking to grow, and so shrinking figuratively and stepping aside and allowing God to be God of my life and the head and take control because I can't fix anything. And then literally, in a sense, in issues and things that happened in my life where I felt like there was no point of return, I was not going to recover from that. So I talk about that and how this book came to be. I was invited to be a part of the collaborative. It's myself and 6 other women, and they're across the country. And I was invited to be a part of the collaborative. And initially I thought, no. But then I said, you know what, I would love to be a part of. And then what I thought I was going to write about, because we all have an opportunity to write about where we are and the successes and where we are in our lives and our career. And what I thought I was going to write about was not what I wrote about. So then that's the product. That's the finished product, Melinda, what I wrote about in 2.6 to 1, Why You Must Shrink to Grow.
So can you give them a little hint? I know you want them to read the book.
I can.
You will give that opportunity, but what does it mean? Well, I think the 2.6 to 1.0, in my head, I'm thinking computer stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the first thing that went through my head. But no, that is not what it is. So Explain to them where you came up with
Well,
that.
2.6 to 1. Well, I was supposed to be a summer baby. I was supposed to be born in July. I was a spring baby. I was born in April. So I was born at 6 months. I was 2 pounds, 6 ounces. And my weight dropped to 1 pound. I was at the McDonald house, and the doctor, when he paid my parents to bring me, to keep me there because they wanted to monitor me, because at that time, a 1 pound baby, you know how small 1 pound is, right? So I was 2 pounds, 6 ounces. My weight dropped to 1 pound, and the doctor, they didn't think I was going to live. So they monitored me, and my parents came. Now, this is a secondhand story I'm getting from my parents. They came to visit me every day, and I was like, wow, 2.6 to 1. So that is where that came from, because I said, well, am I going to include that in the story? So the 2.6 to 1 came from that, me being 2 pounds, 6 ounces, and my weight dropping to 1 pound.
You had to shrink to grow.
Absolutely. There we go. That's another time, shrink to grow. Absolutely. And here I am. We'll just say 20 plus years later, right?
That's right.
20
I'm
plus
with you
20 plus 20 goes. Right. So yeah, here I am. So that's one of the ways, shrink to grow. Yeah.
So Karen, did you have a question?
No, I mean, I'm just fascinated because there once was a time that being born 2 pounds, 6 ounces, you wouldn't have made it even
Right.
when you got to the 1 pound, you would have been gone. So
Right.
that says a lot about our medical system here in Cleveland.
Absolutely, it does. Yeah, and McDonald House, part of the University Health System, so one of the best hospitals in the country. But yeah, at that time, that's unheard of. So apparently God had plans for this one here. So he said, well, 2.6, 1, but that's all right, shrink to grow. So here I am. And I'm so honored to be here with you ladies today.
Well, it's great to have you, but that isn't the only things that you've been through, right? I mean, you were a preemie, and then you made it through that, you grew through that. So maybe share with us some of the other things that might, because when we all look at our life, we all have challenges, right? Different types of challenges. And one of the things we try to do with this podcast is cover a variety of things. Some people have everybody has challenges, but some have one major challenge that they look at and think that's it, or they have more than one. So you've been through a few. So maybe, is that something that you feel comfortable sharing to talk a little bit about where you're at today?
I put it in the book, so absolutely. But you know what, the interesting thing, when I wrote this, I'm very prayerful and very mindful when I was writing, because I said, I don't want to write about what I think I want to write about. I want to write what needs to be put down on paper that someone needs to read, someone needs to hear. So I was praying, and I said, what am I going to talk about? So then I talk about in this book about my relationship with my earthly father, who was an alcoholic. And I talk about that. And ironically, I was a daddy's girl. So when he wasn't drinking, you're my hero. But when he drank, it was a completely different story. And it was very challenging. People say, oh, I had a great childhood. Mine, not so much. But being able to look back at that and say, this is something my dad did because he needed to cope. And we all got that. And again, me looking and thinking, okay, my dad couldn't love me because he wouldn't treat his child, who I look just like him, and mannerisms and everything like him, and that would treat his child like that. And growing up in an abusive, emotionally and verbally abusive, I'm running and hiding in the house, places in the house, because I was afraid of that. So growing up with that and seeing my dad and asking God to show me a softer side of my father, because growing up with that, from that, and God gave me new eyes to see my father, and I fell in love with my dad all over again, and I got to see another side of him. I said, wow, this is who he is, and the years of the things that he endured. He only knew what he knew to do, and so God restored that relationship beyond what I could have ever imagined.
It's really hard for people to look, and I appreciate that you found that within you, because many people will blame their parents it's all their fault that this is where their life is. It's because you did this to me. I also had an alcoholic father who was abusive in his own way. And my mother always said, look, he's got an illness. He drinks to cope. He's got an illness, and it's not about you. So from a small child, I looked at it as it wasn't me, it was his being sick. Not everybody gets that opportunity to get that type of lesson when they're young, but you were able to open your eyes to that and say, he did the best he could. And we look at our parents, we put them up on this pedestal.
Sure we do.
And we expect our parents to be perfect. We expect our parents to love us all the time. We expect our parents never to have a bad day or to take it out on us. And that's just not realistic in the world. But if you can look at the better piece of it, and there were good times in your story, you write about that.
Yeah.
You were, he was very proud of you in a lot of ways, but then he had his abusive side when he was drinking. So I know you struggled with that, but it looks like you've come to that circle and your eyes look at only the good piece. You're not ignoring the bad piece.
Right. And it wasn't to bash him. It was just, that's a part of my journey. Mm-hmm. So to be able to overcome that, because if you think about it, I was probably supposed to be an alcoholic like him. If you think about, well, okay, that it, and it carries on from generation to generation.
It does.
But I knew that was something a direction that wasn't even anything that even entered my mind to even go in that direction. But he came from the South. So he's enduring these things. He's enduring the racism. His father was a sharecropper. So he endured abuse at the hands of his father. So a lot of things he grew up with. And a lot of this I didn't find out until after the fact, because it's not something that he shared with me.
Right.
So a lot of that he endured, but then to cope, and then he became the alcoholic, because I'm sure he didn't start drinking to say I'm going to become an alcoholic, but that was a coping mechanism for him, and that's what it became, and we got the brunt of it as a result. So I was able to look at him and say, well, he did what he knew to do, and I couldn't fault him beyond that. I just was very prayerful and had to have a spirit of forgiveness for him and my mother.
Well, and the forgiveness piece is so key. It is so key to letting that previous damage go. Because no matter how hard we try, there is a damage piece to it. We don't forget that it happened. It's always there. But I think if you can learn to forgive that person and look at them for who they are and what they are, and not so much that, I don't think anybody, unless you're just born sick, meaning, with a mental illness, sets out to hurt their child or sets out to cause any problems like that. No, I don't think he woke up and said, I want to be an alcoholic. I don't think my father did either. It's just something that happens, but it does perpetuate family to family. So you broke that cycle. I broke that cycle. My brother broke the cycle. None of us became alcoholics following that family trait to use as a coping mechanism.
There was also a stage of men, particularly in the 50s and 60s, who grew up thinking that it was manly to drink, and they didn't see themselves as getting drunk. Okay, this was just who they were. My father, thank God, was not an alcoholic, but my father saw all of his friends coming home every night and having to have a drink. That I remember I probably was about 9 or 10 years old, and he started this new thing. He'd walk in the house, he had a drink, and it made him very sleepy. But when you woke up my father from a nap, he looked and acted angry, but he wasn't. That was just, and I remember being afraid of him. And my mother said to him, I think you need not to have that drink when you come home because you're scaring your daughter. And like I said, she said it right in front of me. I was 9 or 10 years old. I was very, very lucky. But that's the age of men that was what they did after a long day of work.
Well, and my father was gone by the time I was 7. He had moved out. Well, they were getting divorced. And she did that to protect us because he ultimately could not control the anger piece that would come out from the alcohol. He just couldn't. And he died at 35 years old.
Wow.
So he was
Wow,
very
that's
young, and
tragic.
I was 15.
Yeah, very
So
young.
yeah. So I mean, I look back and I feel like he did what he had learned to do from his family, and
Mm-hmm.
they probably had learned it from their family.
Sure.
And it's all about breaking that cycle. I mean, that's what the world's trying to do right now, right?
Yeah,
Break the cycle. And
right.
so you were able to do that with your family situation. Do you feel that it carried into other relationships later?
What my relationship with my dad, yeah, I'll have to say that. Um, and again, it's a part of my journey because the first relationship that we have is usually with our fathers, right?
Hmm.
So that relationship translates into other relationships. So how you look at men is it's formulated by your relationship with your father. So yeah,
And your
I
mother, what your
yeah,
mother accepts.
right, absolutely. So looking at that and thinking about that, and even my spouse now, I'm like, he's similar to my dad. He reminds me of my dad, which is interesting. That's a whole other subject. But
Mm.
I think about the relationship, one relationship in particular that I wrote about in the book um, when I was 19. And I didn't know anything about relationships outside of, this is my first relationship outside of school. It's like, okay, I'm
Mm.
dating this guy, and he almost took my life.
Yeah, I read that.
And I talk about it in the book. Again, I didn't want to put my business out there, but I knew that it was for someone else. It's not just, God allows us to go through things in our lives, but not to keep it to ourselves, but to share with others that someone may learn something from it.
Absolutely.
So as I was writing, I asked God to take me back to these emotional spaces and these emotional places where I was at that time. So as I'm writing, things are coming to me. I was like, oh, wait, I forgot about that. Oh, that did happen. So it seems like a lifetime ago. And someone may look at me and think, oh, Grace is this or that. But they don't know that everyone comes from something, somewhere, and everyone has a story. So when I share that, it's not for people to say, oh, Grace, oh, I'm so sorry you went through that. Um, God allowed it for me to go through it, to be able to share it today. Because had it gone even further, I wouldn't have been here to
You
share
wouldn't
it.
be here. Well, and right now, we've talked about this, Karen and I have talked about this with a different show that we had about the abuse that's happening. Right now, when people are stuck in the home together with this COVID situation, that, domestic abuse is up. And
Yeah,
not only that, suicides and other things as well. But, it's important to people to see that you can come through that you stepped through it,
yeah,
and look where you are today. You
right.
can move forward. You can get out of that abusive situation. And you
And
you did that.
a lot for me was my faith. I've always been prayerful. Had a praying grandmother. My mother prayed for me. So even when, and I prayed, and even if I didn't know what to pray, I would pray. I said, I know there's a higher power, and Lord, I know you've got me, even in this. So as and what happened when he, because I talk about it in the book about when he almost he almost killed me. He was choking me. And as he's choking me, I'm yelling, please stop, don't stop. And I can't believe this. And I'm thinking to myself, is this it? Is this how my life is going to end? Is this it? So I'm saying, Lord, is this it? Is this the end? And then I black out. So when I came to, I'm on one, I mean, he straddled me on the sofa and he said, you're going to die tonight, expletive, and began to choke me. And I'm thinking, how did I get here? And I'm thinking, Lord, is this how I'm going to die? I haven't, I'm 19 years old. Is this it? So thinking about that. And then when I came to, I opened my eyes and he's on the other end of the sofa and I sit up, and I'm just, it's like out of body experience. I can't believe this happened. So I'm sitting there and he's crying. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And I'm wondering, how did I get here? How did I get into this relationship? And then it goes back to my relationship with my dad. The relationship, and it's not a correlation, but it was the verbal abuse, because that's how it started, right? And things that he would say and do. And here I am, 18 years old. Oh, I can help him. I can fix him. No,
we always think that.
Right? I don't even know anything. So who am I going to fix? Right? So, and just coming out of the household and then thinking, oh, well, I can help him. I can fix him. He has a few issues, but I can fix him. And the reality of it was no. And it took that. Well, we had broken up. I did talk about that in the book. And then we got back together because he had a family tragedy. And here I am again, trying to be there. And so if I could share with anyone thinking about sharing with young ladies, abuse, love is not abusive. Love does not hurt. And I've heard some stories, young girl, and this is something that happened to me outside of high school, but you hear stories of young ladies and girls in high school and even younger. Yes. I'm like, no, that's not love. That is not love. So if I can help one person, say that's not love. And there's always, and another thing, I didn't think I had anyone to talk to. I was afraid to tell my dad. And so I didn't think I had anyone to talk to because I thought my dad might say, well, you shouldn't have been with him to begin with.
It's your fault.
Right. So I felt like he was going to blame me. So I was like, I didn't want to tell him. But there's always someone to talk to. There's always someone you can talk to. And it's just thinking about that. And the girls think, I don't have anybody to talk to. I don't have anywhere to go. So they're stuck. No, there is always someone to talk to.
Oh, absolutely. Whether it's a friend, if you tell a friend and the friend says, okay, let me help get you out of this or get you help. That's what you need to do. But you were able at least to pull yourself out of that situation then. Yeah. And move forward.
Yeah, because I just couldn't understand. I said, well, I'm a good person. Why would he do, and what he did, I wasn't to blame. That was who he was before me.
Right.
So, and here I am, but just to think about that. So I've had women and young ladies come to me after they read that and share their stories. And I've heard some really, really powerful stories to hear these women share this with me after reading what I wrote.
That opened them up.
Right. After reading what I wrote. So I said it.
That's the purpose. Again, that's actually, I started sharing my journey on Facebook going through cancer, right? And that's one thing led to another. That's how we got here, Karen and I together doing the podcast. And that is the whole purpose of this podcast, because everybody's life challenges are different. And we started out talking about cancer, but we have had so many other subjects on, and some of them they're still a challenge, but it's a light challenge versus this, which is not a light challenge. Well, but I think it's important to get the info out.
And Sharon? I think it's important that people learn that just because you're sharing your story, whether it be in a podcast or a blog or something that you put out on Facebook, okay, if it's real to you, you need to get it out. And that's why I started these 6 years ago. And we're growing them in so many different ways because our stories are similar, but they're different.
Right.
And how you got through yours, Grace, is your way. And I may read it and say, wow, but I couldn't have done it that way. But then it opens up conversation between us to say, how can you do it, Karen? How can you do it, Melinda?
Right.
And we have to be open to each other. And that's something that we haven't been for a long time.
True. And I think that when we share our stories, even if it's similar or even if it's not, but like you said, Karen, we all have that, we're women that can embrace and lock arms and support one another. And say, like when Melinda and I talked, and I'd love to do this. I'd love to share because I know that it's greater than me. And so now I get to meet you, and this is great, and this is awesome as well because it's a platform, and I thank you for doing this, Karen, and for having this for us because it is for us, and we learn so much.
Absolutely.
And I just thank you for that.
Well, I also think it's important to have someone, Karen and I both shared our stories as we've gone through journeys with some of the guests, but it's important for people, you've been on radio, you've been in media.
Yes.
To see that they look at you and go, oh, her life's perfect. Nothing bad could have happened. And so I really think it's important that people see, you didn't just wake up one day and here you are.
Right.
On the radio, and you wrote a book and you did this. No, you had all of these different things that journeyed you to where you are today. And that lovely face of yours being out there on here, there's stuff behind it that people don't know.
Yes, right. And I had someone tell me that one time. As a guy, he says, you have never been through anything. You need to go through something. Well, he wouldn't have known what I've gone through because that was none of his business, But for him to say that, and this was 20 years ago, I think, and he said, you've never been through anything. You need to go through something. You don't look like, and how do you, what does a person look like? I don't look like I've been what I've been through. Okay, right. So what does that mean?
Grace, that really is a dynamite comment that you just made there, because when I first got into this business, I met a number of people that were on TV, they were talk show people, and I looked at them thinking, look at you. You've done everything that I've wanted to do, your life must be perfect. But as I got to know them, I loved them even more because their life was not perfect or is not perfect right now.
Right.
And they're real people. And now I can look at them and say, look how far she's come. Mm-hmm. Look how far he's come. But we assume, like watching the Emmys last night, everybody is in perfect shape. Well, they won an Emmy, but that doesn't mean they're going to ever have another job again.
Right.
We have to stop assuming and be open and have these conversations.
We really do. We really do.
So as you move forward now, you're doing a little something different, right? But still working in the media field. With as you move forward, are you planning another book, or what are you planning on doing beyond your daily job?
Well, I work right now at the Ohio Media School as the Director of Education, working with the students, here to serve the students, to support the students in their journey. The next generation of emerging media professionals. So I'm here to share my experience, my advice, and to help them along their way. I do voiceovers as well, so I've been doing that since 2014. Well, I've been doing it probably since I've been in radio, 20 years, but I've been doing it with my own company, Voices of Grace LLC. I've been doing that, and Grace Roberts LLC, and I've been doing that for about 6 years. So am I going to write another book? I am. I'm going to write a full book, and the name of the book already came to me. I was like, okay, that's the title. Am I ready to do that? Not yet. I have bits and pieces that I am putting together, but I'm not ready to write the full book. But yeah, I look forward to that. And I don't exactly know what direction that's going, but like I said, I'm writing bits and pieces, and will see where that, right, and we'll see where that takes me. And I think even with this, talking about my dad, I called my sister in Alabama. I wanted him to be proud of me writing. I wasn't bashing him, but I wanted him. So as I was writing, I'm telling her and I'm reading it to her because I wanted it to be something, he passed away a number of years ago, but I said, well, what do you think about this? Do you think he would be proud? Because it wouldn't be something that I'd want to bash, because I loved my daddy. And, that's who he was, and not to make excuses for him, but I loved him so much, and so I'm calling her, well, what do you think? Do you think Daddy would appreciate this? And she's his oldest, and she looks so much like him too, so do you think he would appreciate it? Do you think he would be proud? And I believe he would. I believe he would.
So before we have a few minutes left, do you keep in contact with anybody else that's in the book, like the other women?
You know what? I do not as often as I could. Well, they're across the country, and they're doing, working and doing with their own businesses. Two of them are doctors. Another is, I think, well, the one that invited me, she has several businesses. She is a coach, and she lives here in Northeast Ohio. Shout to Audra Jones, and she is phenomenal
I know
as well.
Audra.
Yes.
Wonderful. Yes.
Yeah, she really is. And even in that, I knew that she was very intentional on who she invited to be a part of the collaborative.
Mm-hmm.
So I check in with them every now and then, and I see her sometime out and about as well. Then on social media, I'm checking in with her and her family. So yeah, she's doing well. And I don't check in with them as often as I should probably. Right, it's like everybody's living their lives and going on, but being able to drop a few lines and say, "Hey, how are you? How's everything going? How's your book?" Because I think that we all had a common goal, when in writing the book and sharing our journey, to where we are, and to encourage, someone else, but communicating with them and just checking in and seeing how they are. Takes a couple minutes to do that, right?
Well, their stories were interesting as well.
Yes.
So how can we find your book and buy it?
Well, it is on Amazon. It is on Amazon. Everything's on Amazon, right? It is on Amazon, 2.6 to 1, Why You Must Shrink to Grow. You can also find the link to Amazon on my website, whoisgraceroberts.com. So it gives a brief bio. It talks about the book, and other things are coming up as well. So.
And are you available to speak?
Absolutely, I am. Absolutely. I've done that as well. Haven't done a whole lot of that recently, but I do speak. I am a speaker, an international speaker, and host as well. So I am available for bookings to speak as well about the book, as well as other things. But yeah, I definitely will bring copies of the book, autograph them, talk about it, and I am willing to share, because it makes a difference. It really does. And I am here to share for others.
You just never know. It just could be one line.
That's it.
I will say that doing what I've been doing on social media for the last several years, about 5 years now, it makes me feel blessed that sometimes I'll just put something out there and someone will send me a note and say, I really needed to hear that.
Absolutely.
Today. Whether it was somebody else's writing that I felt compelled to put out there, whether it's something I wrote or it's a video that I did that day. I mean, it's amazing that's how I started with if I can get through my challenges, I know you can get through anything that challenges you. People had said to me, "Oh, well, I hear your voice saying that when I hit that moment." So I know how important it is with, you read what you wrote, somebody's going to pick up a line, a situation, something in your story or the other collaborative in there and say, you know what, this means something to me. It helped me get through my day. It made a difference in my life.
Absolutely.
That's it. And Karen, as well, like I said, it could be one line, something you say. And like you said, it could be something that you've said and you forgot you said it, but someone said, you said this 5 years ago, and you said, and they'll tell you when you said it. And then they can think back to where they were at that time, because I've had people, call me, you said this, Grace, a number of years earlier on the radio, and you said this, and I didn't even remember saying it, but they'll tell me when I said it and what it was. And it's just the fact, wow, I made a difference just from sharing that, because it's so important to have the platform, but anybody can have a great voice. But what are you saying? What are you giving to others? What are you sharing with others? What value are you bringing, right? So if I can bring something to someone, to bring value to someone, if I can give them something, and share something that makes a difference, then I must be doing something right. That's very important to me, not just to open the mic, to have a mic and say anything. No, it's very important that I'm saying something, substance, content, and bringing something for someone else.
Well, I think that was the purpose of your show where I met you to begin with, is to share what was out
That's
in the
right.
community, the nonprofits, and how people were helping other people in the Cleveland area.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
that,
yeah.
I loved your show. I mean, that was so important. We really don't have that right now anywhere. That was lost when you were lost
Right,
in there.
right. Yeah, I loved it too. It was wavelengths on 107.3 The Wave, and I loved it too because I met so many great people. And doing the Grace on the Go segment, going out and about to organizations in the community and just meeting people, that was much fun too.
And look at us, 6 years later, here we are.
Right? Who would have known, right?
We didn't.
Who would have known that I wouldn't even be on the radio right now, right? And I'd be here with you, Karen, meeting you and being on your podcast. And Melinda, this is awesome. And this is a great platform. And looking forward to, and the beauty of this, it can reach, it's global. You can reach
Right.
all over the globe. I love it.
Well, you know, it suddenly hit me as I was thinking about the other women that maybe we've done a group podcast before with some other women. You know, maybe we see who's available and do a discussion group.
That would be wonderful. Love to have you back.
Podcast.
This is
I'm at
live
work,
during
right?
the podcast.
I'm at work and I have one of the students come in. It's like, I need you to sign this for me, please.
Okay, so you're like, give me just 2 more minutes and I'll be up.
I'll let John Gerard know that you're really doing your job.
Thank you, Karen. Yeah, that's the campus director here. And he might even still be here, right? No, he's probably gone by now. But yeah, and so just making a difference, you know, and who know, you never know. Like, so even in that, the students that just popped in, you know, they're here to make a difference. You know, they're here, and where they may say they want to come in and start one thing, and then they go through the program, they learn they like something else even greater, and then they have a different motivation. They have it, you know, well, I thought I wanted to do this, but then I did this over here, so I really enjoy that. Like, I thought I wanted to be in radio and broadcasting for the notoriety, to, you know, to meet the celebrities and hang out. But once I got in there and I realized I really enjoy having the platform, having something to say and making a difference and meeting people. And then the community affairs piece, that was just like icing on the cake. I just loved it. And I found that I really loved the community affairs piece, even more so than me just being the co-host of the morning show. Right. Because it's just, I just really enjoy it.
I think there's another piece before we go on this, and that's how you grew through that.
Yeah.
Again, growing, you got through that process. You know, you went in with one thought, you learned more things, you've evolved, and look where you are today. I mean, you're helping people in what you're doing today as well. Not only from being on the show, but from being on your other show. So I think that's another thing that people can learn from this, that, you know, you never know what direction your life is going to take you.
True.
But it's all good. It's what you learn to take out of it.
And that we always grow. When we stop growing, we die. When we stop learning, we die, right? So to be, and to be open, because you never know what life is going to bring you. You never know, but to be open for it and looking forward to it.
And you've just kept on growing and moving in different directions. I've done that. Karen's done that. And I think that's a lesson for someone to see that, you know, you might start off here, but you end up over here, and it's where you're supposed to be.
And the best is yet to come, right, ladies?
Absolutely.
The best is yet to come, and I'm excited about it. I'm excited for both of you, and I'm excited because the best is truly yet to come.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to have to bring you along on our journey and have you back, because I'm sure there's a lot more that we want to hear. And I'm going to have to go out and get that book now. So
thank you for taking the time to be on today, Grace. I know you had to kind of squeeze it in the schedule, but I really appreciate it. And we're going to work on bringing in a couple of the other ladies, if not all of them, to do maybe a group discussion.
Love it. Ladies, thank you so much. Karen, thank you so much.
Thank you,
Melinda.
Grace.
Thank you for having me. I'll be honored to come back. I love it. And like I said, the best is yet to come. Can't wait to hear about that too.
Okay. Take care, everybody.
Stay safe. Bye.